Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Umesh Gupta, and today we are going to talk about what are compound components in React.js. Basically, it's a pattern which we can use to create more flexible and more robust components. We are going to look at some examples and some components using this pattern, and then we are going to look at what we are going to build in this video, and eventually we will have a working solution for the problem statement. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So a lot of time what happens is that we have to create some reusable components. Maybe it could be for design system, maybe it is a wrapper which is used across our app. Most common examples would be maybe custom select or drop down or menu, or you have accordion and those things. So let's take an example of that and see what could be the possible APIs to define such a component. So in the native web, we have a HTML tag called select, and in select, we can have multiple options as children. So, so oftentimes we create a wrapper on this by, let's say, we create a dummy component as a for now select, and let's see how can we define this component. This select component can take options as a prop, which is basically an array, and each object in the array corresponds to option in the list. So we could have these things: key, value, maybe we can call this display key. And now this is one option. There could be multiple options. Now on every option click, we want to do some action. So we can provide a key here on click, which is a function. Maybe rather than providing to every option, we could do something like on item click, and here we provide a function. So these are just two props. There could be any n number of props, like is we can have searchable, like let's say we want to provide a search field here that user can type, or maybe clearable or collapsible, whatever. And this is one API, and this is not limited to this component. Maybe we can have, let's say, there is also possibility that we have want to create a card component, and one way would be to that we provide header of the card as prop, and maybe content of the card, or maybe footer of the card. We can have different props, and in the card component, let's say in the card component we have some sort of this constant card, and we return, and let's say we have header, content, and footer. So if we have header, then we return the header, else null. And this is true for all. This could be content, this could be footer, and so on. So this is one API to define these components. And this is not just limited to such reusable components, as in such design system components or those kind of things. This could be anything, like let's say you have a shopping cart, and our shopping cart could have items in it. So one API would be that we provide items as an array, and on every item click we provide some function. So this is like that we in the shopping cart we will iterate over the items, and will provide on item click as on click. So we have seen one way of defining these APIs, where we have, let's say, shopping cart and items, and in select we are passing the options array and so on. But this is not a very expressive API. If you see the HTML structure, you have select and option, you can see some meaning here. But here it is that we had just providing a list of props, and for every use case, that today we define select, but tomorrow if we have to extend it, then this list of props are going to increase again and again. we have to maybe provide disabled or maybe some other prop which will affect the options, and this list of is going to create, and this is true in every case. Maybe if we want to provide some, let's say, meta content in this, so we provide meta, and here we will have to destructure it, and the same logic here, that we have meta and we do meta. So the components are not encapsulated, that the parent component will take everything as a prop, and it decides what to render and what not to render. So can we do something better? Can we have some more expressive API to do these things? So now the question here is that how can we improve upon the API structure we have seen in the previous section? One way to do that would be compound components, which is the theme of this uh, video. So question here is, what are compound components? If you see the native HTML structure, that we have select tag and we have option tag, and here there is some sort of you know some sort of parent child relationship where select act as a parent and different options are the children, and they individually doesn't hold any meaning. That if you write options individually, then it will not have much meaning, but together they make some sense, and they share data between them. That if you select an option, then it knows that the root component knows which option is selected, and we can fetch that value. And this can be replicated in anything. Like if we had the card component where we were providing header, and we were providing content, and we were providing footer and all those things, but rather than doing this, we could create some sort of API where we provide card header, and this the children could be anything, maybe string or maybe another HTML tag or another component, and this could be card content, and this could be card footer. So now if you see and compare it from the above one, it is far more declarative and far more expressive. And when you read it, then you know what is happening here. An individual component is just concerned about its own prop, that a card could be disabled or it could be expanded or maybe multivariant, but card header, card content, card footer doesn't need to know about that. So, and in different cases, there could be a case where you want to use the card, but you have some other card meta component also here. So, in you, if you don't need it, just don't declare it. As simple as that. So we talked about what could be a better API and possible solution to our problem, the compound components basically, where individual components like card header, card component doesn't make any sense alone, but when used together with their parent like card header, then they create something meaningful. So now let's talk about what we are going to build in this video, and we'll see what would be the potential API contract we are going to offer to our users. So in this video, we are going to build an accordion component, and in this accordion component, the this accordion tag would be our root, and inside that we are going to have accordion items, and each accordion item could have accordion toggle and accordion panel. The children are not just limited to this, and this is what the API we are going to offer as of now, and users can extend these. And this is the UI which is going to be rendered, that you have accordion toggle and accordion panel. If you click on the toggle, then the panel would collapse or expand depending on the current state. So this is what we are going to build in our uh, code today. And so let's get started. So we had a look at the API which we are going to offer. So we are going to have an accordion as the root, and in the accordion we'll have accordion item. Let's create two of let's first create the, and accordion item, we have accordion toggle. Let's call it section 1. We have accordion panel, accordion panel. Let's call it accordion panel content. Now let's copy this and create section 2. So this is the final accordion, which is final API of the accordion. It is going to look like this for our end users. Now let's create the accordion component first. Let's comment out this. So we'll go in the file system. We will create a new folder called accordion, and in this we will create a new file accordion.js. Let's work on that. So in this we'll have accordion, and for now it just returns a div, empty div, and let's export this for now. And we're going to import this in our app, accordion from. So in this accordion, whatever are the children, we are going to render those. So we can add that. So we'll have the children and we'll render those children. So we created the accordion component. Like in our API, we have seen that we created the root accordion component. Now next thing is accordion item, which is basically a combination of accordion toggle and accordion panel. This UI here. So let's implement this in our accordion file. Let's copy this and let's create accordion item. So this will have the same structure as our accordion. It will take the children and just render it. For now we'll just export it, and in this component let's uncomment this. Let's import accordion item. So let's implement the remaining two components, accordion toggle and accordion panel. So in our accordion file, we'll copy this accordion item and we'll paste it twice. So one would be our accordion toggle and the other one would be accordion panel. So let's make this toggle a button, and the structure would be same, that they will take children and just render it for now, and we will import these. So accordion toggle and accordion panel, and let's uncomment this. So for now this is the UI rendered. This is the toggle button and this is the panel which we are showing, and if we render the second one, then the same here also. So our API is almost done, what we envisioned in our diagram here. But in terms of functionality, nothing happens. That if we click on any toggle, then nothing happens. So let's fix that. So our root accordion component will maintain the state of the current active panel, the state of the entire accordion, which is the current active panel. So let's handle that. Use state, and we'll set it to null. But to know which is the active panel or to set the active panel, each accordion item must have a unique ID. So let's provide that ID1, and here let's ID2. We can implicitly take care of these IDs, but let's, for the sake of simplicity, let's create an API where user will provide these IDs. So that ID we are going to get here in the accordion item. So, but what happens here is that this ID exists in accordion item, and this function to set the state exists in accordion. Somehow we need to access that set active panel in the accordion item. One way to do this would be that we use react.children.map and we provide the children from props. The callback will get child as prop, and we clone the element. We provide child as the first argument, and the second argument we provide active panel, and let's call it handle panel click as set active panel. Let's import React also. So basically, what we are doing here is that this React.children, it is provided by React only, which it exposes a function a method map. This is just like the higher order function we have. It iterates over the collection and provides each item as the argument, first argument to the callback, and we are cloning that element. So react.clone element again provided by React. So what it does is that it clones that elements, that node, and whichever, like whatever is the second argument, the active panel and this object, these are treated as props. These props plus the already existing prop on that React element, those are merged, shallow merged, and the element is returned. So what so in this so now in accordion item we will have the ID which is provided by here. We will have the active panel, and we will also have handle panel click. But our aim is that when we click on this button, then the panel should either expand or collapse. So we have to do the same thing here also. Let's copy this. Um, so because our accordion item is parent of our accordion toggle and our accordion panel. So that's why we have to do this. We will provide ID and we will provide, so this is we already have. Let's do one thing. Let's make our components a little pretty so that we have some, UI differentiation. So in the panel, let's provide some styling, and in the toggle button also let's provide some styling. So these are our accordion items now. So in our accordion item we map over the children again, and we provide the ID which we are getting from the user, and we are providing active panel and handle panel click which we are getting from accordion. Now in our accordion toggle we will get the ID here, and on the button click, on click, we will call handle panel click, and we will set the ID, and inside our accordion panel we will get the ID, and we will also get active panel. So if ID is not equal to active panel, then we will return null. So by doing so, what happens here is that by default our accordion is both accordion item are collapsed, and if we click on each item, then by clicking so our accordion toggle sets the ID, calls the function and provides the ID here, and due to this our state is updated, our component is re-rendered, and our panel is expanded. And if we click on the section 2 now, then our second uh, panel is expanded. For basic functionality is done, that if we click on any accordion item, then the panel is expanded and other one is collapsed. But to do so, we had to, do a lot of things. We had to iterate over the children and clone the individual child and pass on the props. Then to use that props at a nested level, we have to iterate again and clone again. So uh, seems a lot of work, a clunky solution. We are doing a lot of prop drilling here, that to use the handle panel click or ID here, we had to iterate over at multiple stages. Also, one problem here could be that here we have accordion toggle and accordion panel. Let's say inside the accordion panel at n level deep, we have a button using which when user click inside the panel, we want to collapse this entire toggle. And if we click, then it breaks. For now, that handle panel click is not a function because we are not providing that. So because inside the accordion panel, we are not iterating again. We are just giving children here. So let's see how can we fix this and how can we improve upon our solution. So one way to improve upon the solution would be to use context API, using which we can avoid all the iteration and all the props drilling. So let's do that. Inside our accordion, we'll create accordion context. So I'll not be going in very depth of the what is context API and how we are it is used, because that is out of the scope for this video. But I'll give you a brief overview and I'll add the resources so that you can read more about this. So what inside this, what we are going to do is that we will import React for now. Let's say React, and we will create context here. So accordion context, and what we are going to do here is react dot create context. As of now, let's set the value to null. So what it essentially does is that we have a accordion context, which basically provides accordion provider and consumer. Just so we have provider and consumer. If at the root level, where you want to provide values to the subtree, we do is that accordion context dot provider, and we pass value to it. And inside this, we have some components. Inside this, we have some components, and whatever we provide in the value is accessible to all the children inside this, all the components inside this using accordion context dot consumer. So uh, so we can, let's see how can we use this in our context as of now. So what we are going to do here is that let's import it first. So import accordion, import accordion context from accordion context. And inside this, what we are going to do here is that rather than rather than cloning rather than cloning here, what we are going to do is that we will use this accordion context dot provider, and we will just move this inside this, and we will use children here, but we have to provide value. So let's create a value. Active panel and handle panel would be set active panel, and we'll provide value here. Now what happens here is that we have to use this so the what so all the children inside this will have access to these value object, where the active panel and handle panel click are the keys. So we are going to use here that in accordion item, but we cannot, rather than using the accordion context dot provide dot consumer, we let's create a custom hook for this. So let's do that. Export function use accordion. Let's create a hook, and we'll do context would be use context, and we'll pass the Accordion context here, and we'll return this context. But this context only works when it is used inside the provider component, provider HOC. So what we are going to do here is we'll provide a check that if context is equal to undefined. So if context is undefined, then we will throw new error, and we are going to say use accordion must be used within a accordion. So let's do that. This is done. So basically what use context take cares of is that whatever context we provide, it provides the current value, the exact value at that moment of time. So if accordion context has the value this uh, active panel 1 and set active panel, which is a function. So we are going to get these values as the context. So let's remove this. So let's keep this here for some understanding. Now in our accordion, let's import this also. So use accordion, and inside our accordion item, we will get this. So in our accordion item, we will use this use context, but I don't think we require here because we need the panel click and active panel in Accordion panel and Accordion toggle. So let's do that here. We will use ID, not ID. We will use accordion here, and we will get the handle panel click. Let's remove that from here, and inside the panel click will provide the ID. So one thing we are going to, but now since we are not iterating over, and we don't need to iterate and send the ID here. So let's remove the active panel and handle panel click also. We are going to get the ID. We will just pass the children here. But the issue here now would be that this ID, we need this ID inside this accordion toggle. But we have removed the looping here. So let's do one thing. Let's create another context, accordion item context, React dot create context. Let's set it to null, and just like this, let's copy this and we call it use accordion item. Let me just write this down, then I'll explain what is happening here. We'll discuss it in detail. So we'll do accordion item, and this will be accordion item context. This is, we are exporting this. Let's import this. So use accordion item, and we will have accordion item context. So I'll tell you what we did. So in our accordion, we created the accordion context.provider, and we are providing the value key where we are passing active panel and handle panel click, the object. This object would be available across all the children. So we come to accordion item, which is the direct child of accordion. In this, we have ID, but we don't need anything else from accordion. So let's go one more level deep. Now inside that inside the accordion item, we have accordion toggle and we have accordion panel. So inside the accordion panel, we need the ID, which we are going to get from accordion item, and we need handle panel click. So which we got from use accordion hook. But since now we are not iterating over the children, we are not passing the ID. So our accordion toggle will never get the ID. So if I click this, then nothing works. So because this would be undefined. So that means we have to pass the ID from accordion item to accordion toggle. So that's why we created another context, accordion item context. And in here, what we'll do is that we will create new value where we'll set the ID, and here we will do is accordion toggle dot provider value accordion toggle sorry, accordion item context, and we will set that here also. We will remove this. So what is breaking? Expected closing JSF text. So dot provider. Yeah. So now what we are doing is that we are using another provider where the object is ID and all the children of accordion item will have access to ID. So to use that in our accordion toggle, what we are going to do here is that we are going to use ID and we are going to use accordion item, and let's remove this. And our inside our accordion panel, we need ID and active panel both. So, but we are not going to get those from props. So from ID, we are going to get from accordion use accordion item, and active panel we are going to get from use accordion. So let's see. Yeah. So by default, both are collapsed, and if we click on something, then the other one collapses, and the one we click on opens. So we cleaned up our code. We removed all the prop drilling and all the iteration over children in accordion item and accordion, and the code is much cleaner and much flexible now. This API is much, we can add another component, accordion toggle or accordion meta or whatever, and we can export and use it here. And now our individual components are self-contained. We can extend, even like for accordion we can have something like default active panel, and we provided the ID as one. So inside our accordion, we can do something like we can have default active panel, and we provide that as the initial value. So now when our component renders for the first time, then the default panel would be expanded. And now our accordion will have its own props. It could be something like, let's say we want to, if we click on the section one, nothing happens. But if we click on section two, then this expands and the preview will collapse. But let's say if we want to click on, we want to toggle it. So something like we extend it to, collapsible. Now what happens, what we want here is that if we click on the section one twice, then it should collapse itself rather than waiting for the other one. So how can we do that? So let's say if we have the collapsible prop here, let's do here only. So this will have ID. So when we are clicking on, we are using handle panel click, we will get the ID here. So what we can do here is that by default, let's create a variable next active panel ID, and by default we'll give this as ID. So if we have collapsible, if it is there, and next active panel ID is equal to active panel ID, active panel, then we will set next active panel ID as null, and we will use this and set the value. So I think some, okay, yeah, let's make it more clear. So if we click on section 2 now, then it collapses. So what basically we are doing here is that if we have the collapsible prop as true, and if the when we set on click on section 1, then the current right now active panel, the value of active panel is 1. Now if we click again, then this next active panel ID and the active panel ID, this condition holds true, and we will set it to null, and since it is null, then both collapses. Also, let's check out that also, that if we use the accordion toggle inside our active panel, now let's say if we open this and we click this, then our panel collapses. So this brings end to our video. We talked about what are compound components. We saw some, native HTML elements and some examples of the compound components in React. Then we talked about what we are going to build and what API we are going to expose, and we eventually end up building the component using both React Children and the context API. So I hope you like this video and the solution I provided. If you feel that I missed out anything, or anything I did wrong, or you wanted to share your feedback or any other solution you want to provide, then do share in the comments to provide those links. So looking forward to the your reviews. See you in the next video. Okay, bye bye.